Now, top story, the first general election debate of the 2024 season has concluded in Atlanta, with Democratic President Joe Biden and his Republican rival Donald Trump trading attacks on abortion and their handling of the economy early in their debate. Both stood giving voters a rare side-by-side look at the two oldest candidates ever to seek the U.S. presidency. Biden, sounding hoarse and tentative at times, stumbled over his words on occasion. On the other hand, Trump rattled off one attack after another that included claims including that migrants have carried out a crime wave and that Democrats support infanticide. As the debate began, the two men did not shake hands or acknowledge one another. The first questions focused on the economy, as polls show Americans are dissatisfied with Biden's performance despite wage growth and low unemployment. Biden acknowledged that inflation has driven prices substantially higher than at the start of his term, but said that he deserves credit for putting things back together again following the COVID-19 pandemic. Trump asserted that he had overseen the greatest economy in the history of the country before the pandemic struck, and he said he took action to prevent the economic freefall from deepening even further. Biden blamed Trump for enabling the elimination of a nationwide right to abortion by appointing conservatives to the Supreme Court, an issue that has bedeviled Republicans since 2022. And as you can see on your screen, this is what Biden said. I support Roe v. Wade. We are not for late-term abortion. Period. In response, Trump argued that Biden would not support any limits on abortions and said that returning the issue to the states was the right course of action. Trump said Biden had failed to secure the southern U.S. border, ushering in scores of criminals. Trump went on to call it Biden migrant crime. The debate takes place at a time of profound polarization and deep-seated anxiety among voters about the state of American politics. What you see on your screen is what Biden said on immigration as well.
President Biden's debate performance against former President Donald Trump on Thursday night has left Democrat lawmakers in shock and dismay, with some House Democrats fearing a wipeout for the party come November. One Democrat lawmaker even predicted a loss of up to 20 seats in the House. President Joe Biden's performance was marked by a hoarse voice, slugged words, and visible gaffes. Democratic lawmakers expressed their disappointment, and they weren't shy. Some even called the performance as being quote-unquote awful. However, a Biden campaign source said that former President Donald Trump's personal attacks and refusal to commit to accepting election results were also poorly received by voters. Ultimately, it may not only be those undecided voters that will determine who will become president next. Perhaps Democrats may also become an important voting bloc. Susan Tarquani reporting from New York for WION World is What.
Now, this is the first presidential debate that we saw this season. This is before we might, as we'll see another one in September, perhaps. But this one quite literally did surprise some people, including the Democrats especially. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Jonah Blanc, who is the former foreign policy advisor to President Joe Biden. He's coming live from Washington. Thank you so much for joining us, Jonah.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now let me begin by asking you, what did you feel about the first presidential debate?
There is no getting around the fact that this was a bad night for Joe Biden. He did not perform as well as his supporters would have liked. And I think that a lot of people in the Democratic Party are getting a little bit freaked out. I don't think, however, that it's going to be the point on which the campaign either rises or falls.
Now, of course, this came a little bit of a shock, not a little bit, but more of a shock for the Democrats, because we saw Biden in the start fumbling. Now, Immigration is something which the Democrats have been talking about so much, but Biden couldn't even talk clearly on that. How do you see that?
Well, he had a problem throughout the whole debate in his delivery. His voice was hoarse. He was much more halting than he has been in some past debates. The campaign says that he's got a bad cold, and they haven't really clarified whether it is just something that he has already recovered from or is still suffering from. They've clarified that it is not COVID. He's taken a test. But right now, there's a big question. Is this just a matter of one bad performance on one day, or is this a bigger issue? Nobody has said anything to indicate that there's any kind of difficulty in his skills, his decision making, anything like that. But performance is part of the job description.
Now, how do you think this first debate would impact now voters? There were some people who were not even deciding, who to vote for. How do you think this influenced them now?
Well, that remains to be seen. Fortunately for Joe Biden, most of them were probably not watching. But the biggest concern that a lot of undecided voters have is Joe Biden's age. And it's kind of an unfair metric because, as we all know from various older people in our lives, one can be deteriorating in health and be totally okay up here. But Joe Biden had the opportunity to put all those concerns to rest today if he had shown the same kind of vigor and focus that he showed just a couple of months ago at the State of the Union. And for whatever reason, tonight he didn't bring his State of the Union game.
Right now, there were multiple issues. There were also foreign policy. It looks like there were so many issues which could have been the subject of this debate, but somehow maybe it just got distracted. And the one thing that people are going to take out from this debate is just the performance.
Yes, you're absolutely right. The criticisms of Joe Biden, which are valid, are all performance criticisms. They're not about substance. On substance, Joe Biden showed himself to be coherent and on target, and Donald Trump, who we really should be talking about in the larger American picture, showed himself the same guy he always has been, just a greedy, self-absorbed candidate who's in it for himself. But Joe Biden had the opportunity today to make that case, and he did a very poor job of showing that.
It looks like Trump. Do you think Trump will gain anything from this debate now? Now, it's not that he did not say anything which might not have come into the center of criticism, but does it look like he might have gained something that Biden did not?
Well, Donald Trump spewed his usual array of falsehoods and just baffling statements. It would have taken the entire 90 minutes to fact check him. But will he gain from it? He might, just because the bar is so low for him. Every day he's not talking about sharks being electrocuted and windmills and low flush toilets is a day he's winning. And if those things sound weird and confusing to your viewers, it's because they presumably have better things to do than watch Donald Trump's rallies. But the Donald Trump who showed up was not as out of control as the guy at his rallies. It's quite possible that a lot of undecided voters will toy with the idea of just staying home, and the Democrats hope that many of them, when it comes right down to it, will realize the stakes are just too high.
Well, the stakes definitely seem too high, and we got to see how this all results into. But thank you so much for giving us your opinion, Jonah.
Thank you for having me.